Hi, this is Andy Teach, host of Andy's Awesome Adventures, and welcome to Venice, Italy.
St. Mark's Square, or Piazza San Marco as it's known in Italian, is the #1 attraction in Venice. It features the beautiful St. Mark's Basilica, the imposing Campanile, the clock tower, along with cafes, restaurants, and museums. The square was originally constructed in the 9th century as a small square dotted with trees and was laid out in front of the original St. Mark's Basilica, at the time a small chapel which is part of the Doge's palace. The square was separated from the palace by a small canal. Already a central gathering place for Venetians, the piazza was enlarged in 1174 after the canal and an adjoining dock were filled in. The square became paved with bricks in 1267 in a herringbone pattern. In 1735, the bricks were replaced with natural stone and laid in a more complicated pattern. The design marked the location where merchants could set up their stalls. As the largest square in the city and the only one given the designation of piazza, St. Mark's Square has always been the location of important government buildings and other facilities central to the goings-on in Venice. The centerpiece of the piazza is St. Mark's Basilica. Commissioned in 1071 by Doge Domenico Contarini, this amazing church is built in Venetian Byzantine style, a mixture of Western and Eastern styles. Nicknamed the Chiesa d'Oro, or Church of Gold, because of its opulence, it has been the seat of the Patriarch of Venice, Archbishop of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Venice, since 1807. As I mentioned earlier, the original St. Mark's Church was situated inside the complex of the Doge's palace and was constructed in 828. It was built to house the relics of St. Mark the Evangelist, which were supposedly stolen by Venetian merchants from Alexandria, Egypt several years earlier. The church burned down in 976 during an uprising. It was rebuilt twice, the last time in 1063. At that time, the power of the Venetian Republic had risen dramatically, and the new basilica, consecrated in 1094, would come to symbolize the Republic's growing power and wealth. This basilica is the one we see today. It was the Doge's private chapel until 1807, when it became the city's cathedral. The Fourth Crusade in particular gave St. Mark's Basilica its riches. This was the crusade that ended in 1204 with the conquest of Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul. A lot of treasure was shipped to Venice and installed in St. Mark's Basilica during this time. The exterior of the basilica is quite ornate and has been added to over the centuries. Historians note that whenever Venetian vessels returned from the Orient, they brought something for the basilica, whether it be a frieze, column, or something else from an ancient building elsewhere in the world. Technically, the exterior is divided into 3 registers: lower, upper, and domes. The lower consists of 5 arched portals, the center one slightly larger, surrounded by marble columns. Above the portals are mosaics, representing stories from the Bible, allegorical figures, and events in the lives of Christ, the Virgin Mary, St. Mark, and other saints. Above the large central window is the winged lion, symbol of Venice. On the central balcony are statues of Greek horses, installed in 1254. The Horses of St. Mark, also known as the Triumphal Quadriga, is a set of Roman bronze statues of 4 horses, originally part of a monument depicting a quadriga, a 4-horse carriage used for chariot racing. The horses were placed on the facade of St. Mark's Basilica after the sack of Constantinople. They remained there until looted by Napoleon in 1797, who brought them to Paris, but they were returned to Venice in 1815. The sculptures have been removed from the facade and placed in the interior of St. Mark's for conservation purposes. The ones on the facade are replicas. The statues at the top of the central portal depict St. Mark and the angels. The basilica has a separate campanile or bell tower that stands 323 feet tall, and it's one of the city's most recognizable landmarks. The first tower standing at the site of the campanile was built in the 7th century, possibly as a lighthouse. The first clock tower dates from around the year 900. Throughout the centuries, it was rebuilt a number of times, finally reaching its current look around 1513 after restoration following a damaging earthquake. Several disasters hit the tower in the following centuries. A fire occurred in the early 17th century and renovations were undertaken. In 1745, the Campanile di San Marco was struck by fire again, with the damage causing a collapse that had killed several people. Subsequent renovations added a lightning rod. On July 14, 1902, the Campanile di San Marco collapsed completely due to large cracks in the structure. The local government was quick to decide to rebuild the tower, and after 10 years of construction, it was reopened on April 25, 1912. Care was taken to create an exact copy of the tower as it existed before its collapse, with the exception of some structural reinforcements required to prevent another collapse in the future. Atop the belfry is a section decorated with walking lions in honor of St. Mark and the goddess of justice representing Venice. On top of the bell tower is a pyramidal spire with a golden weather vane on top, which is in the form of the angel Gabriel. The 5 bells of the Campanile di San Marco each had a specific purpose. The largest rang at the beginning and end of the workday, one rang at midday, another rang to summon members to council meetings, a fourth proclaimed the session of the Senate, and the last announced executions. We took the elevator to the top and were rewarded with some great views of Venice. At the base of the tower is the loggia, an ornate Baroque-style podium with marble bas-reliefs and bronze sculptures created by Jacopo Sansovino, a Florence architect and sculptor, between 1537 and 1549. The loggia suffered major damage due to the collapse of the bell tower in 1902, so what we see today is about 50% original, as much restoration was done at that time. The bas-reliefs depict allegorical scenes, with Jupiter as an allegory of Crete, Venice representing justice, and Venus as an allegory of Cyprus. In the 4 niches toward the bottom, Sansovino placed the bronze statues of Minerva, Apollo, Mercury, and Peace. The loggia served at various times as a gathering place for nobles and for meetings of the Venetian officials responsible for the administration of the treasury of St. Mark's Basilica. Because of its location directly in front of the Porta della Carta, the most important entry to the Doge's palace, the loggia was also used from 1569 onward as a sentry post to provide security for the aristocracy during the meetings of the Great Council. Beginning in 1734, the loggia was additionally the site for the public lottery. The Torre dell'Orologio is a Renaissance bell tower. It's also known as St. Mark's Clock Tower or the Moor's Clock Tower. The clock was built from 1496 to 1499 by Mauro Carducci. While the tower and the clock date from the end of the 15th century, the mechanism of the clock has been subsequently altered. It was placed where the clock would be visible from the waters of the lagoon and gave notice to everyone of the wealth and glory of Venice. On a terrace at the top of the tower are 2 great bronze figures who ring the bell hourly. One is old and the other young to show the passing of time, and although said to represent shepherds or giants, they are known as the Moors because of the dark patina acquired by the bronze. The bell is original and is signed by Simone Campanato, who cast it in 1497. Below this level is the winged lion of St. Mark with the open book, before a blue background with gold stars. There was originally a statue of a Doge kneeling before the lion, but in 1797, after the city had surrendered to Napoleon, it was removed by the French, who were purging the city of all symbols of the old regime. Next is a semicircular gallery with statues of the seated Virgin and Child. On either side are 2 large blue panels showing the time, the hour on the left in Roman numerals, and the minutes at 5-minute intervals on the right in Arabic numerals. Below this is the great clock face in blue and gold inside a fixed circle of marble, engraved with the 24 hours of the day in Roman numerals. A golden pointer with an image of the sun moves round this circle and indicates the hour of the day. Within the marble circle beneath the sun pointer are the signs of the zodiac in gold, which revolve slightly more slowly than the pointer to show the position of the sun in the zodiac. In the middle of the clock face is the earth and the moon, which revolves to show its phases, surrounded by stars which are fixed in position. The background is a blue enamel. When you stand in St. Mark's Square, your attention is focused on the Basilica, Bell Tower, and Clock Tower, but nestled all around the square, aside from cafes and restaurants, are some museums and other buildings which are easy to overlook. This is the Procuratie Vecchie, buildings that house the apartments and offices of the St. Mark's attorneys. They were built in the 12th century and restored in the early 16th century. The Olivetti Exhibition Center features 20th century Italian architecture. The Career Museum is situated in the former Royal Palace, was established in 1830, and features art, history, and culture of Venice. Under the porch is the famous 18th century Café Florian, the longtime chic meeting place in Venice. The Procuratie Nuove, which provided more offices, was built in the mid-17th century. The National Archaeology Museum features ancient Greek and Roman sculptures, coins, and ceramics. Just around the corner is the Doge's Palace, or in Italian, Palazzo Ducale. It's a palace built in Venetian Gothic style. The palace was the residence of the Doge of Venice, the supreme authority of the former Venetian Republic. It was founded in 1340 and extended and modified in the following centuries. It became a museum in 1923. We visited the palace, and it was definitely one of the highlights of Venice. Between Doge's Palace and St. Mark's Library is the Piazza di San Marco. It is known for the two columns located there that pay homage to two of Venice's patrons, San Marco, St. Mark, which features a lion, the symbol of Venice, and Sant'Odaro, St. Theodore, the first patron saint of Venice. The columns were placed here in 1125 and have long served as the official gateway to the city as they welcome visitors from the east. Until the mid-18th century, the Piazzetta was also an area where criminals were executed.